Hey everyone, since we're talking about snuff films today, we wanted to put a disclaimer beforehand to let you guys know that we're going to be touching on the subjects of rape, mutilation, some animal abuse, and sexual assault. So we want to make it clear that we do not support any of these actions and we do not condone them either, but we did want to let you guys know that we are talking about it. So if any of you have any triggers that are related to this or are easily offended by this stuff, this is your heads up right now that we're going to be talking about it. All right, everyone, let's get to it.
Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, Ep.19. I'm Matt.
I'm Cody.
And our returning guest champion of the entire universe is here today.
The Mad Pooper.
Welcome back, Aaron.
That's a little... I mean, that's a little extreme for like calling her a champion. I wouldn't go that far.
She's come back the most. So I'm just saying.
I stand by my statement.
I'm just saying. That's all. She flipped off Cody. That's right.
That's
some real drama behind the scenes here.
That's not Rizzle. That's why you get knocked down from champion. Using that. But anyways, yeah. So this week this is going to be a hard episode to talk about because we're going to be talking about snuff films, which is one of the most controversial out of all the films, film genres and everything. And we just kind of feel like it's one that should be talked about because it's not really talked about a whole lot in mass media.
And we're also going to talk about whether they actually exist or not, and what the line is with snuff films, and does it even have a place in horror at all, or even existence at all. So if you've heard the warning before this. If you're triggered by, talks about, rape or murder or anything like that, then this might not be the episode for you. So this is your warning right now, again, that, we're going to be getting to some really heavy topics. So just heads up, everyone.
Yeet.
Really brought in the importance of that.
Yeah, I know. So what's Miss Squinty-eyed over here?
So Aaron, how have you been? It's been a minute since you've been on the podcast.
I've been great. Just super busy. Went to Ireland, and then I'm working on a short film, actually.
Oh, yeah?
With one of my groups. And then we're Code 3 Paranormal's about to go do a big investigation and make an episode out of that. So.
Nice.
Never a dull moment.
What's the film?
It's called The Blue Room.
Okay.
It's kind of a David Lynch-esque and H.P. Lovecraft type story. The guy that wrote it is absolutely amazing. And we're going to submit it to the Telluride Horror Film Festival.
Nice.
Oh, nice. That's
hey,
exciting.
We're welcome to bring him on here if he wants and help promote it.
I bet Jesse would love that.
Yeah,
cool.
we'd love to promote it. Give him a little hand, get him some exposure.
Yeah.
So exposure is always great. Well, it's great to have you back.
Full frontal.
Also, listeners, if you can't tell, I am extremely congested, so I am going to try my best not to breathe out my mouth.
We probably just made
Close your mouth
really
when you're breathing at me.
Cody, how have you been?
It's been a rough week, but all right for the most part.
Do we need to murder anyone?
Nah.
Do I need to poop on anybody's car?
Nah, it's all right.
I wanted to ask you, do you feel proud or somewhat embarrassed that you became the bad pooper through this podcast?
I don't even care. I think it's funny.
We're already started getting posts about you from our friends calling. Does this remind you of someone?
Oh my God, are you serious?
We had a friend who tagged us in that video of that woman who shit in the McDonald's.
He's like, does this remind you of anyone?
And I'm like, you got to be way more specific because that would be even me or Cody. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's like, it was someone you had on the podcast, and I was like, oh.
I mean, I got it straight from the get-go, but I was like, I know exactly who James is. Shut up, James, you weren't even on here.
That's pretty funny. No, it's one of those things. I did it one time. It happened once, and I've never been able to live it down. So by accepting it and making fun of myself, I take away the fire from everybody else.
I'm just saying, we can put an end to it if you want to put an end to it.
Oh, no. It literally doesn't bother me.
I'm saying at some point you might have to put it on your resume.
depending on which job I'm going for.
Yeah. I'm also known as the Mad Pooper on this podcast.
Oh, God.
All right, so I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it then.
Yep.
So, all right. So to start off, we're going to go over the history of snuff films. A snuff film or snuff movie is a movie in a purported genre of movies in which a person is actually murdered or commits suicide. It may include a motion picture genre that depicts the actual murder of a person or people. Without the aid of special effects for the express purpose of financial exploitation, but the detail is extraneous, so long as it is circulated amongst a jaded few for the purpose of entertainment. So just to give everyone, what a snuff movie is. I did have a poll with our listeners on our Facebook and Twitter about, snuff films, which I'll bring into a little down the road in this episode, but about what they think and feel about it. But the first known use of the term snuff movie is a 1971 book by Ed Sanders, The Family, the story of Charles Manson's Dune Buggy Attack Battalion.
That's a mouthful.
So that's a Double Wears Prada title song.
Seriously. But, so he alleges the Manson family was involved in making such a film in California to record their murders. Yeah. So, and then also, according to this, I guess, this is a little bit off of that one. But so, according to Jeffrey O'Brien, whether or not commercially distributed, snuff movies actually exist. The possibility of such movies is implicit in the stock B-movie motive of the mad artist killing his models, as in A Bucket of Blood, 1959.
I don't know, they would have made snuff films in the 1950s.
Oh yeah, snuff films have been around for a long time. So like I think they would do live snuff films before filming.
Yeah.
Was around, so it was like snuff plays where like they would actually kill their actresses and stuff on stage. Like so, like during the Shakespearean age, how they would do it. It wasn't sexual or anything at that point in time, but to get what they wanted out of the actor, because there was no actresses back then. They were there was always male actors. They'd dress up in female garb or whatever. Mm-hmm. If the director wasn't pleased with their death scenes or anything, he'd actually poison them.
Holy crap.
On stage, yeah.
Yeah. And the concept of snuff films being made for profit became more widely known with the commercial film Snuff in 1976. This low-budget exploitation horror film, originally entitled Slaughter, was directed by Michael and Roberta Findlay. In an interview decades later, Robert Findlay said that the film's distributor, Alan Shackleton, had read about snuff films being imported from South America and retitled Slaughter to Snuff. To exploit the idea, he also added a new ending that depicted an actress being murdered on a film set. So that's a bit of the history behind snuff films. So before we continue going forward, I just kind of want to talk about that, like why it started back then, what the motivation was. And I think it goes back to what we talked about before about how people like seeing very macabre kind of stuff, seeing very things that are dark and gritty and just really exploit human nature.
Yeah, I think it's that, and it's all. So I also think it's almost like a junkie perspective, like someone who's addicted to drugs. They always want to try and get higher, faster, or stronger because they grow an immunity to it.
Yeah,
and then it can be kind of said with someone who's obsessed with the macabre and stuff like that, where like they're watching all these horror movies of people dying and they're like, oh, it's fake. Like at some point it's just not enough. And so then they're like, I want to watch a real death, like a real death scene. Like that's why there's, I guess one of the more popular snuff films that's kind of widely distributed is the Faces of Death.
Yeah.
And it's this entire movie anthology of real world people dying.
Oh, but wait, it's like, I think, isn't that where like they bust open a monkey's head and eat the brains?
Yeah, all kinds of stuff, dude. So like it's a whole anthology. Like it's all kinds of different movies. Like, but it's called The Faces of Death, and there's a bunch of different volumes. And each one, it's not like some of it's kind of like camcorder stuff like that. Others is like security tapes and stuff like that. Like one of them, there's a kid who breaks into a junkyard and it shows him getting torn to pieces, like by the junkyard dogs.
Jesus.
Like actually being eaten and stuff like that by these dogs. And so like I mean, that's made for like specific people.
Yeah.
Because they just want to get that rush of like watching someone die.
I mean, what do you think, Aaron?
I think it, to me, has a lot more to do with people's morbid curiosity. Like, at least on a personal level, like, why would I want to watch a snuff film? And it's more because, like, how far are they going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that, like, a train wreck. You can't look away, and you're just like, there's something about it that's interesting, and not from, like, a rush level. Like, I don't enjoy watching it, but I can't look away.
Well, and I think we're now getting to the part where, you know, why people get so interested in it. And I did a little research, and I'll read our comments from our listeners who participated in our question about snuff films. You know, one thing I found out is that people, and I went to Reddit for this, and apparently, like, people will watch it because they either want to experience something they could never take part in, or in some case, people watch it just to watch people die. For some, it's even about confronting one's morality. Mm-hmm. So, which is a very interesting way to look at it, because I would have never thought that's a way to confront your own morality, is by watching other people die.
Yeah, like, how messed up am I? Let's watch someone die. Like,
let's see how far I can push myself.
Yeah, just kind of like in my head, I'm like, you know, I like watching like nasty stuff or like fucked up things, or like reading them in comics or video games and stuff. But I'd never want to watch an actual person die.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't, like, if someone's like, hey, I got this film, it actually kills someone in the end, I'm like, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah. And I think that's why the fake films work, is because it's like, you can experience it without really experiencing it.
Yeah. And for the most part, like, they're over the top, so it's like, it kind of like puts the like fiction in it. So like, you can tell, it's like, because like when I watch Jason, there's no fucking way that there's this 7-foot tall zombie walking around hacking people's heads off or shooting them in the face with a crossbow that has the string still tied to the bolt.
And that's why you can have like, oh, this is my favorite kill scene, and this is like, oh, I love this kill, because it's like so clearly fake.
Yeah, but
then,
I
think that's where snuff films differ from all that, is it doesn't feel as fake.
Well,
it's not.
Well, for
like
me,
an actual snuff film, it's not.
Oh yeah, actual
snuff.
But like the widely spread ones are
the
fake
false,
as far as we know.
False snuff films.
Well, for me, I mean, like, I understand the whole thing. Like, you can't just watch someone in real life just die for entertainment. But at the same time, I don't know if it's hypocritical, but like, I read the entire Crossed comic book series, and, you know, Aaron, to explain to you and our listeners what Crossed is basically the whole plot is it's kind of like a zombie apocalypse type of story, but instead this virus takes over people, gives them a red rash on their face that looks like a cross, and makes the people who are infected act out their most cruel and worst temptations and desires. So in the comic, you'll see everything depiction from, you know, rape to, you know, severed heads being, you know, raped, and you'll see, you know, animals being used as weapons. You know, and it's extremely gory. And that, what I just mentioned, doesn't even cover the entire thing.
And that's a comic book series?
Yeah, it's a comic book series. And at first, like, when I first saw it, like, I had to put it down because I was like, this is way too intense. And then, like, I felt myself coming back to it to read it. And I think one of the reasons why I came back to it is because I wanted to know what's going on with this whole story where, you know, these people are doing these terrible things in this comic. And it turned out to be one of the most intense zombie, you know, things I ever read, because it's basically like, what if, you know, zombies were obviously zombies, but they retained, you know, the worst part of humanity.
Right, the desire to actually hurt people rather than just, you know, when they're a zombie, that's just their, like, nature. It's not their, like...
Yeah, I mean, because they have cannibalism in there and they have bestiality. It's really... It's not for the weak of heart. I will say that much.
Did you guys ever read, or I guess watch it? I know they made it to maybe like 120 Days of Sodom.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
That was the same thing. I was shelving books when I was working at the library, and I saw this, and I was like, what the fuck is this? So I opened it. I spent an hour of my shift when I was supposed to be shelving. I was physically sick.
Yeah.
Reading this book. And then still to this day, I get really, like, upset when I think about it. Because, I mean, they're, like, force-feeding feces to children.
Yeah.
And, like, all these men are screwing these. I was just like, oh, my God. Like, what? But I couldn't stop reading it.
Well, yeah, and the movie, they actually eat the poop. The director made them eat the feces.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a fucked up.
I never wanted to see the movie. I was like, nope, I read sections of the book.
Yeah, it's one of those movies, kind of like a Serbian film. It's hard to get because of the real nature of the stuff.
Well, the scene in The Cross that really messed me up was it was this couple, walking through this graveyard, and they hear this noise, and they turn around and they see what the noise is, and they see the Shaolin monk. Well, I don't know if he's Shaolin, but just a monk, and he
Did you just assume? I assume his religion.
Yeah, I assume the gender of his religion.
You're going straight to hell.
But anyway, so you see the monk with his dick inside of a severed head of a girl, and he's just going at it, and that's the page I happened to open up to when I first saw the comic book, and I was just like, what?
He's like, yeah.
It's I'm gonna go read Hello Kitty.
Jesus help me.
But well, I mean, to be fair, some of the writing in the comic is actually pretty well done for at least their "Wish You Were Here" story arc. But other than that, it's not. I could tell you so many things about that comic book that I guarantee you're not going to want to invest in it. I do recommend it to anyone who wants that next thrill in horror comics. That's probably a top tier. If you want to go try it, go and try it. Garth Ennis is actually a pretty great writer. So
yeah, he does all my favorite Punisher stories.
Yeah, Garth Ennis knows what he's doing. Yeah. So I definitely at least recommend it, to those who do want to try it. So, but going off to our Twitter, when I, posed the question about this, today, talking about snuff films, I'll say the question first. So we want to ask, why do you think people like watching snuff films?
What, you people?
You people. What
do you mean, you people?
And is a snuff film an actual piece of art, or should it be forgotten? And so we had a reply from Anna at Anna Keeson.
Hey, Anna!
People desire what they can't have. Part of us gets excited from the thrill of crime. Behind a screen, we watch what we desire without fear of getting caught or feeling guilty. In my opinion, rational thoughts keep us from acting unethically, hence why some enjoy snuff films and others don't.
Well, aren't you a little smarty pants? That's my cousin, so I like to talk.
No, it's okay. You can yell at her.
I'm telling you, Mom.
And then from Art of the Crow, he directly messaged us saying, are you talking about real snuff films or the snuff film genre? Since one is legal to watch because no real murders actually take place, while the other one has no real record of actually existing. There are plenty of videos out there of people being killed or committing suicide, but none of them are actually called snuff films. One example would be the recording of Saddam Hussein's execution. While his execution was recorded and he did die on film, it was still not called a snuff film, even though it fits what the snuff film is called. Since the definition of snuff film is a movie in a purported genre of movies in which a person is actually murdered or commits suicide, according to Wikipedia. There are plenty of fake snuff films out there, like Cannibal Holocaust, for example, but as far as real snuff films, none actually exist. Even on the deep web and the dark web, there is a difference between the two webs. The closest someone has gotten to making real snuff films is to make profit off of them, is Peter Scully. Look him up if you want to learn more about the sick individual, but if you're going off where the premise of snuff film is where the antagonist kills the protagonist or vice versa, then a lot of movies can be considered snuff films, and that means 99% of horror movies are snuff films. Then we could also consider Harry Potter the longest running snuff film series ever. Hear me out on this. Voldemort's biggest deal throughout the whole series was to kill Harry in every movie, and it wasn't until the last movie when Voldemort did kill Harry, or snuffed out Harry.
Spoilers.
Yes, they came back from the dead, but the final battle, Harry killed or snuffed Voldemort for the last time. But this is just my opinion. Like any other genre, they have highs and they have lows. So very well thought out comment and message, and I thought that was.
What was the guy's name? He said to Google
Peter Scully.
Scully,
SCULLY, like Agent Scully.
Yeah.
But probably less attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, he's on trial in the Philippines for numerous crimes against children, including the production and. Sorry, my phone blanked out. Basically, He produced sadistic child pornography, torture, rape, and murder.
Jesus.
You know, it'd be fun to discuss. Not today.
That was a really weird transition.
Yeah.
Well, the dark web and the deep web, because I've been hearing a lot about it.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to learn more, because I don't know like what's real and what's not, and like how to get there. And everybody says not to go there. And...
Well, we had sorry, just before we move on, Mackie also made a comment.
Oh, Mackie.
And so I should probably read his comments, or else he'll get upset.
We don't want to upset Mackie.
So Mackie reached out to us saying, "Who's making this controversial? They're hot."
Mackie.
And then he followed up with, "They're taboo. That always intrigues people."
That's a very Mackie answer.
They're hot.
So the difference between the deep web and the dark web, just I'm going off of this. I know it's a little off topic and stuff like that. So the dark web, you can get whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Like black
however
market.
You want. It's like pretty much kind of like the black market in a sense.
But you can get illegal stuff.
Yeah, drugs,
weapons, mercenaries, hitmen. Like that's where if you want someone dead, you find a way into there and you can hire someone to kill them.
Yeah.
And that's like by hidden addresses.
Listeners, we're not saying do that. Yeah, we're not saying we know how to do it.
The only way to get in the dark web outside of the deep web, because the deep web is where you can kind of like watch, like you can find some of it and stuff like that, but a lot of it's kind of hoaxy, but also it's just more of the like macabre type stuff. Dark web, you kind of have to be given a URL, and then once you get into that, then it sends you another website, and then you have to get another URL. Yeah.
So basically,
it bounces
redirects you
because it's kind of it's technically illegal to get into the dark web because you can find all of this stuff.
Okay. So what about these rooms like where people are tortured and people like will pay money to watch people be tortured?
Well, that brings up the website bestgore.com, which is I consider part of the dark web, even though it's easier to find. And it's literally just a website where they have random clips and videos of people, dying in real life, whether, it's people getting their heads severed off or people getting beaten to death with bats. It's there. And I mean, I'm not trying to put, that website and who owns it on the spot, but it is out there. So obviously there is this pull to watch these things that you can't take part in. I mean, what I kind of want to touch on is like what Art of the Crow was saying, which was, doesn't this make it that every horror film is a snuff film? And that's a interesting, argument, because he's right. People in horror films do die.
Yeah, and like gruesome gore, and we all love it.
So then where's that? So what I want to figure out, and what we want to figure out, is what is that line between when it becomes a snuff film and when it's a horror film? Because in my opinion, and I think Cody shares this as well, is that snuff films get mistaken for horror films and get thrown into the same kind of like genre a lot of times, and I feel like it shouldn't be, because
I agree.
Because snuff is what he says, it's exploitation, where when we have horror, it's more of a storyline. Like, you're able to tell it is fake. I mean, do we need to talk about Hatchet and all the crazy kills in the Hatchet series?
And that's what I was saying with Cody. That's like when you can enjoy a kill.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, it's my favorite kill scene because it's so Jason coming in with a machete, or Victor Crowley coming in and ripping someone's jaw. Yeah, that's like so fake.
It's so over the top.
Well, it's not like watching a Serbian film where you're just like, oh man, I love that baby scene.
Oh my god,
that would be
no
like
sane person says that.
Well, I think my biggest thing also, my biggest difference between a snuff film and a horror film is that snuff film, for the most part, was snuff films, because like when I was little, the whole thing that I learned about snuff films, not when I was little, but like
Jesus Christ on a cross.
I was in weird shit,
tiny.
okay, but no, when I was younger, like I learned that snuff films, it always involves sex, or rape, or it's consensual sex, and then one of them kills the other, like at the end and stuff like that. Like it always has to have sex in it, and then death.
But then you can make that argument that like Hatchet is a snuff film, because isn't there a scene where a guy's taking a girl from behind, then he gets killed, and it's still gyrating?
Well, yeah, but what I mean is, for the most part with snuff films, is that it's rape though. No, more times than not, it's going to be a rape scene. Like, so we're talking about they're raping someone and then they kill them afterwards.
So we're talking about like I Spit on Your Grave.
Like I Spit on Your Grave.
Last House on the Left.
Yeah, I would consider those more along the lines of like a false snuff film than a horror film, because when I think because when I think horror, more times than not, it's a little more like extravagant. Because in horror films, like they don't try and go all too realistic.
Yeah.
While with snuff films, false or real, like they want it to be the more realistic type. They want you to feel it more. They want you to want to get into that small part. That's why I know me and you kind of had a little bit of an argument about this before. I wouldn't because we were trying to talk about the different, like how movies are called snuff films, and I was kind of yelling. I was like, no, a snuff film is actual death. All right, like that's the difference. But I was like, but then there's the false snuff films, which I would put I Spit on Your Grave under there, Antichrist.
Yeah,
definitely a Serbian film. Last House on the Left.
Cannibal
yeah,
Holocaust.
Serbian film would have to be a fake one, or else everyone's going to jail.
Yeah, but like I would
Human Centipede even.
Yeah,
Human Centipede. I would consider those more snuff than horror because it's still making you feel uncomfortable. Like in horror movies, you're supposed to get scared and stuff like that. But horror films generally, they generally try and use like jump scares or something like things a little too over the top to be 100% believable, but still makes you feel uncomfortable. Like for instance, Friday the 13th. Yeah, some of the kill scenes are like realistic. Like a machete to the dome, or like when he slits their throats. But it's a 7-foot zombie, so it's like there's the fiction to it.
Yeah,
but it's like Chucky as a doll. Freddy comes in your dreams. So and I think I really agree with that a lot. That I think it becomes more of a snuff film, and maybe it's like different per person, but when it starts to feel real and seem like more of a real life situation, and there's a lot of there's almost always some sort of rape or extreme violence from like human to human rather than like monster to human.
So then here's the case that could be made against it is I need a second. Sorry.
It's hard to like gather your thoughts on all this stuff. Like,
I gotta go blow my nose.
or just blow your nose.
Going. Yeah, that's what I thought. Blow your nose. Run away from the argument.
Blow my nose. I mean, I gotta go cry.
But yeah, no, that's my biggest thing, because I always like the one thing that kind of introduced me to snuff films in general was 8mm. It was that old Nicolas Cage film where he's. I know.
Looking at his face is snuff enough.
Jesus.
I hate Nicolas Cage.
Why do you hate Nicolas Cage?
What did he do to you? Who hurt you?
His acting?
Fair enough. But anyways, like I kind of like that film, but it could have been better. Not deader. It could have been
Deader's better.
Yeah, but it could have been a lot better because like the subject it was talking about was snuff films.
Yeah.
And how snuff films back in the day were produced only on 8mm reels. Or on 8mm films. And so like because like it was teaching how like there's this subculture and everything that do snuff films there. They film a rape and murder of a girl or another guy and just stuff like that. And so like that's what I always believe snuff films were, is it was always rape then death. Like because it wanted to touch on the two biggest taboos, I would say mostly in like an American culture of sex and violence.
Well, I mean, so the argument that can be made against that snuff films are horror is that what does horror do that really scares us? It puts us in a vulnerable spot, makes us feel vulnerable. And snuff films generally do the same thing. Obviously to a more extreme end, but I mean, wouldn't that qualify it as kind of a horror movie? And I'm not making the case like that it should be.
Right.
I'm just saying.
The opposite. And I think it can be like, I almost think of like, two far extremes. You've got like just plain horror movies, and then you have like the crazy snuff films
120
that
Days of
people can't
Sodom.
see. Yeah, and then there's like
That's
kind
not
of
a horror
like a
movie.
spectrum where it's like Last House on the Left. When I haven't seen the old one, but like the new one, I was watching it and I was like really nervous and like into the story.
Yeah.
And then it does have the more snuff stuff, but that falls kind of in the middle for me of like snuff and horror. So I don't think necessarily there's a full like, except for in like 120 Days of Sodom or like the really extreme cases where I think you can kind of go somewhere in the middle with most horror.
So do you think that makes it like, some rape in a horror movie is okay?
I mean, rape is never okay.
No, of course not. But it seems like
it's a real thing, and I don't think it's bad that it's used in movies necessarily.
I don't think it's bad when it's used in movies, mostly because like when it comes to movies, it's a good way to get people. It's a good way for people to know that shit's out there.
Yeah.
Like when they use rape in movies and stuff like that, especially because like a lot of people kind of tend to like, oh, that doesn't exist, especially because it's never happened to me, so it doesn't happen.
Well, see,
type of thing. Like I think a lot of people have that kind of mentality, and so when they see it in movies, you know, they get all pissy. Like especially like a lot of those people, they get all pissy, like this shouldn't be blah 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 in the movie and stuff like that. And in my head, I'm like, well, it's a good in a movie. It's a good outlet to get it known that it happens because it's fake. It's not that didn't actually happen, and like, but it makes people aware.
Yeah.
So I think that's my only main argument for having that in a movie is because it's like it's a good way for like to kind of open people's eyes, especially in like really like well done movies like It.
Yeah.
The highest grossing horror film ever, and it never shows it, but it always insinuates that the girl, I always forget her name. Beth?
Or Beverly.
Beverly, yeah, I was going to say.
There you go.
Beverly, that she was being raped by her dad.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't seem to insinuate that in the book, which is weird.
No, but it insinuates in the movie, and you can see the horror. You feel for the girl. Like, it makes you uncomfortable, every interaction she has with her dad.
It almost helps with character development.
Yeah, and so like it's a kind of a way I was like, oh, maybe this stuff actually happens.
Well, a horror movie that I think overdid it was I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
The remake. I haven't seen the original, so I don't know much about the original. But the remake, because a good portion of the movie is, well, the movie's about this girl who goes to this cabin to like find her muse to write her next hit.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, because that's the part you're going to want to pay attention to. But like, so, you know, what happens is that there's these, you know, group of hicks, and that's literally how they're portrayed.
Yep.
Basically, you know, go and get up in front of her and like, you know, rape her. And then as she tries to get away, she runs into the cop, and the cop's in on it too. And it shows this whole scene where they, you know, shove her face into this puddle out in the woods, and like they just start going at her from, you know, behind. And it shows almost the whole thing. It doesn't show any penetration, but it almost shows the whole thing. It's extremely uncomfortable. The entire
extremely comfortable.
I swear to God, no, not that way. No, it's extremely uncomfortable because like even prior to that, like they're, you know, they pull out a gun and make her suck on the gun like it was a, you know, like a dick, you know, and it's extremely uncomfortable to watch it the entire time, because one part that makes it even worse is that they try to make one of the hicks who's autistic, he's not, you know, he doesn't understand what's going on, and so his brother makes him rape her.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, he
feels bad. Like you see the struggle with him the entire time, but he's like, it's just like, you know, he's not mentally all there, and then he's being pushed to do something, and it's like,
yeah, and that's why I feel like that's when it gets taken too far in a horror movie.
The Last House on the Left is kind of the same way. I've only seen the new one, and they have, it's like I swear, like a 15-minute long rape scene.
Yeah, I saw it.
And I was was watching it with a guy a long time ago. It was like a first or second date. It was the most awkward. I'm just sitting there like,
that's the best date movie ever.
Is this gonna end?
Hey, you like horror movies? I kind of, you know, I'm liking you and stuff like that. Have you seen Last House on the Left? No.
I think I picked it because I didn't know, and I'm like, oh geez, like.
It's almost
so
like
awkward.
It's almost like taking someone to see the original Evil Dead, where she gets raped by the trees.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like. So.
But at least that's over quickly.
Yeah, I know.
My place here is I don't want to be touched right now.
Because I need to be alone.
Yeah.
But those scenes that go on for 15, 20 minutes, I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
No.
Like to get the point home. Like that's too much.
Well, and that's why I consider that I Spit on Your Grave to be a snuff film. Because it just it's a good chunk of the movie that they show this whole rape scene. It's not
a long time.
Yeah, it's
drawn out because you know how like, okay, so like the thing with I Spit on Your the Last House on the Left is, yeah, it's a decent length and stuff like that, but it's just the one scene. And I Spit in Your Grave, like you see her trying to run, and they just keep going at her, and they take her to different like it's a long time.
That's a rape revenge. I have not seen that one, but it's a rape revenge.
Yes.
Yeah, she ends up killing them all.
Yeah.
But like it's still spoilers. But like whatever. But like at the same time, it's like you just feel so uncomfortable watching the whole thing, because it's like in your head also it's like that's shit that can actually happen.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it happens all the time.
Well, and so I guess the thing is, it's like, obviously we're not advocating rape in any way. We never would.
Hell no.
But if it's going to be put in a horror movie, I think we can all agree that it should not be a major focus. If you're going to include it, you either have to insinuate it has happened or is happening, or if you're going to actually depict it, don't do it like, I spit on your grave and make it this huge drawn out scene. Like, I understand you want the viewer to feel vulnerable, but it took it way past that point with feeling vulnerable. I felt gross.
But that's where it comes, like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but the creative control of the director, if that's the kind of the way he wants to make people feel, and that's like what he's going for, and he's using rape, then I suppose it's kind of, it's up to you. If you want to sit there and watch that and watch it all the way through, then that's on you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
it's kind of how it is with most of the films and stuff like that, most of the movies. But like, I don't know, in my head also, I just kind of think, like, if you're gonna make it a good part of your film and stuff like that, like, might be something a little bit off in your head too.
Well, I feel like there should be a bit better of a warning, for anyone who views it, because with this spinning grave, I just picked up the DVD, like, because in the description it didn't say anything that, like, she was gonna get,
fucking gangbang raped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and so I didn't expect that to happen. So when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, okay, good, they're done. It was just the one scene, and then it starts getting drawn out. I'm like, this isn't gonna end.
Yeah.
No, I think a warning, like, I hate to use the term trigger warning because I think that's such a stupid but something like that's that intense, it should probably have some sort of, and then word of mouth gets around, because I knew about I Spit on Your Grave and how the Snuff film, and that's why I chose not to see it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's like one movie where, and I also think, like, I also believe that, like, some movies throw the rape in just cause.
Oh yeah.
Like, it has nothing prevalent for the movie.
Into the story.
Nothing helps it. Like, for instance, one of my favorite movies is The Hills Have Eyes. It was the remake. I loved the remake. I think they did such a good job. I like it so much better than the original.
I didn't see the original.
It's all right. It's boring. It's just kind of drawn out. Like, you can see why it's scary, like how it was back then. But the remake is so much better.
I loved the remake.
But the rape scene in the
not necessary.
Yeah, in the thing, like, the only
RV.
Yeah, in the RV, the only way that you could justify it being there is because in the beginning of the second one, which was shit, it's a shit movie. That's shit. Oh my god, it makes me so mad, because the whole thing about it is that it's that, like, because, like, the whole thing about the first movie was, like, the lucky ones die first,
right?
And the second one was the lucky ones die fast. They all fucking die fast. I was like, what do you mean the lucky ones die fast? Because, like, the whole point of the second one is that they were more sadistic, so they torture them instead. And not, like, when I was going to go see it. And so the only link of the rape from the first one is that you see the girl in the beginning of the second one giving birth to the mutant baby. That's the only link. Otherwise, there was no and, like, the fact that I think they just kind of threw it in there for the shock factor, because, like, and, like, I was uncomfortable watching that entire scene, even though, like, it wasn't even a main focus. Like, I didn't even know she was being raped until the second time I watched it.
But I still have memories of that.
Yeah, because it kept flashing to, like, different parts of everything that's happening at that point, like them putting out the dad being that who's on fire, to the dude who looks like Sloth from the Goonies, like, playing with the bird and getting all pissed off at the bird. Yeah, and, like, and him being, like, touching the baby and, like, being all amused by the little baby is, like, you couldn't even really tell that she was being raped until, like, you just saw, like, quick flashes in the background.
I don't know. The first time I saw it, I was pretty, like, and, like, I know this is going to send up red flares here, but the guy is so gross that's doing it that it makes it worse. Not that, like, it's less okay,
well, I mean,
more
he's
okay
mutant,
if it's a hot guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's
but
a mutant.
to see the, like, mutant, and then to, like, I don't know, I always end up putting myself in the shoes of what I'm watching, and I'm like, I get nauseous thinking about the mutant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, but, like, what I was saying was that I feel like a lot of the times when, like, people start saying that they're snuff films or whatever, like, or that we need to show, like, kind of have, like, a warning in a sense for, like, these, like, hardcore rape scenes. It's like a lot of the times you don't know they're going to be in there.
Yeah.
Like I said, The Hills Have Eyes, I was thinking it was going to be a family fighting off mutants, and then all of a sudden the girl's getting raped. I was just like, fuck.
Well, I know for some viewers that's really hard, especially, like, you know, when you watch something, you don't expect that brutal of a rape scene to be there. And, you know, if you've actually been through that, I can only imagine, you know, how that would set you off and the type of trauma that would bring right back to you.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, we're all on the same page with that there should be a little bit better of a warning for people.
Because the only time that you ever really see a warning is on the ESRB rating on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you have to... Who the fuck actually reads that? Like, I rarely read it. Like, I just see, oh, rated R, it's probably going to be gory with boobs.
Pretty much, that's it.
And then, like, but when, like, The Hills Have Eyes, I think it actually says on there, and a depiction of rape.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only time I see it. But when I saw it in theaters, like, I just knew it was rated R, because it just says rated R, like, on the trailers and stuff like that. It never says why.
Oh, wow.
So,
well, I mean, so since we're talking about false snuff films, the first 2 films in the Japanese guinea pig series are designed to look like snuff films. The video is grainy and unsteady and is as if recorded by amateurs. The 6th film in the series, Mermaid in a Manhole, allegedly served as an inspiration for Japanese serial killer Tsutomu Miyazaki, who murdered several preschool girls in the 1980s. So obviously, like, even fake snuff films can have an influence on the individual. And so the question is that the creator's fault, or is that the person who viewed it?
Okay, so in my head, I honestly put a lot of the blame on the viewer. Okay, so like, even when it comes to like movies, so when they start like doing things that they see in movies, or the stupid argument video games make you violent and shit like that, the thing that bugs me the most about all that shit, especially when like it's those fucking white suburban moms that blame their child's outburst because of video games, it's like, motherfucker, that's your fault. You got the kid the game, or you let him have access, and you don't pay attention to your kid.
Too many Mountain Dews.
Yeah. And it's like, you're not paying attention to your kid. Fuck your fucking gardener that you're probably fucking in the back and stuff like that. Why don't you pay attention to your fucking child that you got like, knocked up for?
Is there someone specific you're targeting?
No.
White people.
White people in general. But no, it's just all those things where like people blame movies, blame video games and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. I don't like. There are things in movies where I'm like, that shouldn't be in there, like the random rape scenes that like they just throw in there for shock value.
We can all agree, no more random rape scenes.
But like,
or warnings for them.
Yeah,
at least
but like,
because free will and all that shit.
Yeah, because like when we watched The Awakening, remember that whole like that was like the biggest thing that pissed us off. One of the biggest things is like the random groundskeeper dude just decided to try and rape the main woman.
Yeah.
There was no build-up, nothing, no storyline for it. He's just like, oh, well, you did the headmaster. I'm going to do you, too. It's like, what?
Disrespect me, I'll teach you with my penis.
Yeah, kind of thing. But, like...
Is that movie good? Should I watch it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's a solid rainy day flick.
Okay.
I wouldn't. It pissed me off so much.
It pissed Cody off more than it pissed me.
How about the viewers?
So
if y'all have
much.
seen it, tweeted them.
It's so it could have been great, but then they just fuck it up.
One thing at a time, Cody.
Yeah, whatever.
We already talked about it.
I know, but it still makes me mad. Anyway, but like, with shit like that, like people who decide, they say that I was inspired by a movie and shit like that. It's like, go fuck yourself. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, you had that in you the entire time. You just want a fucking outlet. No, I don't blame the creative people that make these movies or whatever. It's the viewer. So whenever I see people like, this movie made me do this. No, I fucking did it, you piece of shit. You just wanted to give it a fucking scapegoat.
Well, then that also like contradicts what we were saying about like warnings, because, you know, the creators are making these movies and you're choosing to watch them. So you're choosing to, you know, whatever's in the movie, you're choosing to view it.
There's a difference between that, though. That doesn't contradict it. The reason why, like, okay, the contradiction for it would be, it's like, I'm going to go watch this movie so I can like
have a reason
to do all this.
Yeah.
Instead, like, because if you put, for instance, Hills Have Eyes. If there was like a little bit better of like a thing like this, the girl's gonna get raped. Like, I mean, they don't have to outright say it, but like, there's more like there's a you know, like the ESRB rating on it where it says in the depiction of rape. If there's like a little bit more on that, like on the posters or something like that, you know, where you see all these things, you can come in, you can go into the movie kind of prepared for what you're going to see.
Or you can be like, okay, like if someone had a really violent rape happen to them and they can't watch that, then they at least know, like, okay, I can't go in and watch this movie.
Yeah, but not when it's someone who's just like
a serial killer.
Yeah,
or
a serial
like
killer.
People that blame Marilyn Manson. for the Columbine shooting.
Well, and we can even pose the question, like, well, it's the viewer should be looking these things up before they go in. But the thing is that, you know, horror movies at this day and age, that they seem so similar with all their trailers that, you know, that means you'd have to look up every horror movie that you're going to go see to see if there's rape in it. And I can see why that would get kind of exhausting or annoying for the viewer to do it.
It's the same thing as a fucking celiac.
Go ahead.
So, like, if you're gonna...
No, interesting. No, go ahead. I want to see where this is going.
So for instance, someone who's been raped in real life, and it's gonna have like a hard time watching the depictions in the movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go see a movie, do a little research on it. Like, it's your responsibility in that case also. Just like a fucking celiac who's supposed to be deathly allergic to any type of bread, any type of grain, whatever. Don't go to a fucking whiskey bar where 90% of their menu is bread.
But I feel like that would be kind of thing that like hurts horror movies, where it's like, well, it's a horror movie, so there might be rape in it, so I better see if it's going to be rape. There's going to be rape in it. So, you know, when we have horror movies that don't even go anywhere near that type of area of, you know, macabre darkness of rape, you know, it's making them look like they're going to have rape. Like, that would be kind of like, you know, say...
IMBD, literally 10 seconds of research.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, no, what I'm saying is that it might create the wrong image for all horror movies. Where it's like, okay, say, you know, Serbian film's coming out. No one's seen Serbian film, you know. And then you see It, Chapter 2 coming out. Everyone finds out, like, oh, there's this really bad rape scene in Serbian film. Oh, well, It, Chapter 2 is coming out. Well, then there might be a rape scene in that one.
That's where the whole research comes in, though.
But don't you think that gives it kind of like a bad name?
No, because again, it's the whole, you have to research it.
And if people are really that dumb, then they're probably going to walk in front of a train at some point anyway.
Like, that's the whole thing. Just because you research one movie doesn't make all the movies it. And you should know that if you're already smart enough to research this one movie, you're smart enough to not say, oh, it's going to have this huge rape scene because a Serbian film, which is actually quoted in the Snuff film, is going to be all about rape. It's like saying like the same thing. It's kind of like saying there's a like Freddy Krueger, a Nightmare on Elm Street, or no, let's say Friday the 13th is going to be similar to like a whole nother type of genre of movie.
Well, I mean, because like, although we're, you know, touching on rape a lot, it's not only just rape, because technically, like, Saw is a snuff film. The first one, it's technically a snuff film because the protagonist dies. He dies in the end. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it by now.
You're shit out of luck. It came out forever ago.
The doctor lives.
No, not the other guy.
You don't even know he dies.
Yeah, you do.
Not until the third film. I'm just saying, you don't know he's dead.
Either way,
it ends with him screaming.
But either way, it's the depiction that he does die. So
can I also say Lee Winnell is very hot?
No, he's
Zach Baggins, and that's it. You gotta choose. What?
Baggins.
Baggins.
No, he's a hobbit. It's Bilbo Baggins, Zach Baggins. He's probably related to
We already did this. We already had this talk where he's gonna be fighting with them and be like, "You're boxing Holy Trinity!" And he comes down with a whole army on a steed of white.
I'm the only army he needs.
You're just gonna find him like, really? I'm here for you, Zach.
I could sit on you and kill you, probably.
I might be small, but I'm mighty.
Did you call Zach fat?
No, she was saying she's the only army that it needs. And I was like, really? We could sit on you and kill you.
Oh, I thought you said he could.
Well, he probably could, but that'd be the best way to go.
So, continuing on with false snuff films, the Italian director Ruggero Deodato was charged after rumors that the depictions of the killing of the main characters in his film, Cannibal Holocaust, which came out in 1980, were real. He was able to clear himself of the charges after the actors made an appearance in court. Other than graphic gore, the film contains several scenes of sexual violence and the genuine deaths of 6 animals on screen and 1 off screen, issues which find a Cannibal Holocaust in the midst of controversy to this day. It also has been claimed that the Cannibal Holocaust is banned in over 50 countries, although this has never been verified. In 2006, Entertainment Weekly magazine named Cannibal Holocaust as 20th most controversial film of all time. Mm-hmm. And
again,
I was not
sexual violence.
Yeah, even that, even that, like during like the TV, like, you know, trailers, like, you know, this film depicts sexual violence, stuff like that. You know, where we can actually hear that they're actually saying that and tell that they're saying that might be helpful.
Yeah.
If that's what you're getting at.
I feel like
I'm just saying
I don't even remember, and I remember rape scenes because usually they bother me a lot, but I don't even remember much rape in that movie. I was not impressed by that movie. I did not, like, it did not live up to the hype for me. I hardly cringed.
I think what did the most of it was
the animals is what bothered me. I don't care about people
because they actually died.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that poor
honestly,
turtle.
I would rather watch a person die than an animal.
Agreed.
That poor turtle.
I think we were all on the same page in Zombieland. I think we're all on the same page in Zombieland when we realized that, you know, it was the kid instead of the puppy that died, but we were more upset by the thought that the puppy died.
Puppy, throw the kid in, it's fine.
Does this make us terrible people?
I already know I'm a terrible person.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
I wasn't going to say anything, but...
I own it.
Well, this leads into controversies caused by, snuff films. Ex-porn star and now anti-porn activist Linda Lovelace testified before the U.S. Attorney General that she had multiple snuff films that she had seen multiple snuff films that were the final destination for performers, and I'm assuming she means porn actresses, who aren't deemed useful, quote-unquote, anymore.
Serbian film.
When asked to provide the evidence to support this claim, she couldn't provide the evidence. And then legendary porn publisher Al Goldstein offered $1 million to anyone who could provide any evidence that real snuff films exist. But I mean, that kind of goes back into, like, you know, that tweet we got, which is, you know, the execution of Saddam Hussein.
Say Lisa or Linda Lovelace?
Linda.
Okay.
Listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda.
About, you know, I guess because that could be considered a snuff film, but it's not there for entertainment. You know, it's not created for entertainment. Like, the whole execution of Saddam Hussein is not, you know...
It's political.
It's political. And politics are boring. No. And I mean, you know, it's... This subject, in general, it's... You definitely see women to be more at the negative end of this.
Oh, yeah.
Than you see guys. I mean,
almost always.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's probably only one film where I could think guys got really ruined, and that's where I forget what it was called, but not Christopher Lloyd, Angelina Jolie's dad's in it, and like that's where the whole term, you know, squeal like a pig came from.
Oh, Deliverance.
Deliverance, that's it. You know, Deliverance, where a bunch of hicks rape a bunch of dudes. So. That's the only
one.
Have
you
I
ever seen Deliverance?
No.
Guess I know what we're doing today.
Yeah. You know, have you ever wondered where that banjo song came from? Like, it's the most famous banjo song. Yeah, that's from Deliverance.
Yeah,
but I mean,
never saw that.
Yeah, it's the most famous banjo
John Voight in it and Burt Reynolds.
John Voight.
Yeah, John Voight, Burt Reynolds.
So I'm over here like Googling everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit. So do they... The two dudes just go and rape a bunch of people?
Okay, so these two hicks. So it's about these three guys, four guys. They're like four best
friends.
friends.
Hole right there.
No,
Jesus.
he's the raper.
Someone could.
Anyway,
Aaron's looking at pictures of the people in the movie.
There's these four friends that they go on this like camping trip where they used to go camping and stuff like that, and they go on this they do this whitewater rafting trip with it. And so they're whitewater rafting down this thing, and two of them get stranded up on this beach. And it's and so these two hicks from this town that they just visited show up, and they end up raping the bigger guy, the fat guy, so where the whole like term "squeal like a pig" comes from. It's because he's fatter, and he's like squeal like a pig, and he ends up raping him. And then they almost rape Angelina Jolie's dad, John Voight. Right before Burt Reynolds shoots him in the...
Jolie's dad?
Yep.
Oh, shit. Glass shot moment, guys.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
I know, right? They're like nothing alike.
No, she's hot. He's not.
She makes out with her brother in the movie. Like, legit brother. Yeah.
Speaking of snuff.
I need a drink.
But I mean, so Aaron, the question I want to pose to you is, why do you think that women are generally the target in these snuff films to have terrible things done to them? I mean, because obviously bad things happen to the guys, and you see bad things happen to guys, but it definitely seems the more extreme stuff happens to the women, like with Hills Have Eyes. You know, mother got raped. You know,
no, daughter got raped.
Sorry,
one of the sisters.
Sorry,
sister got raped.
Sister
got milked.
Yeah. Either way,
nurses.
I forgot about that.
Pretty gross, terrible things happen to these women. I want to know, why do you think that women are the target?
Okay, let me. put this delicately here.
Hey, you don't have to. You can be raw about it.
Yeah, dude.
No,
we're
but
talking about
I
a really
wanna,
messed up subject.
Make sure I get my point across about like. So if you just look at history, and believe me, I'm no man basher. I love men, but men in real life have a lot more violent. Not that women can't be violent, but at the end of the day, men have a lot more violence. And
violent tendencies.
Yeah, way more violent tendencies. And
barbaric.
They're a lot more barbaric. And you look at serial killers, I mean, proportionately, there are women serial killers, but there's virtually none in comparison to men.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's like y'all's brains, the amount of testosterone, I can't say. But I think it's more realistic that these things happen to women because you don't really hear about it happening to men nearly as often.
Well, I think it's because and this might be treating on to the subject of like how women and girls are raised in our society, and it's generally women are raised to be housekeepers, tend to be more vulnerable. They're kind of raised in a more vulnerable kind of state, and I think that's why women tend to be the target, is because they're made to be vulnerable. I mean, even for guys, we're told that we're supposed to protect women because they can't do it themselves. So it's always been this image of women are fragile, and so
in some ways, it's not just an image, because at the end of the day, as badass as I think I am at 5'1", and a lot of muscle mass for someone my height, but up against someone even 5 inches taller than me or bigger than me, I'm no match against a dude. So I am more vulnerable.
So I mean,
like I said, we could sit on you and kill you.
Well, and I think that's just what makes it so much more uncomfortable is what we're saying. Like, you have a girl who's 5'1", and then in this movie you have a dude who's 6'5", 7 feet tall, and you can definitely feel the oh shit situation that she's in. Having to stand in front of this tyrant who can basically just rip her head off.
Whatever, and I can't stop him. You can't, like, if it was me, I couldn't stop somebody from raping me probably, unless I got lucky and got a good one in the eye, or got, but even the stuff they teach you in Krav Maga and all that, you never know if that's actually
Well, we're 4 minutes away from an hour. I mean, what do you guys think? Should we just do our ending statements? Do you think this is a one episode deal, or
I mean, we touched on a lot of stuff today. So like, I kind of want to go hug a puppy right now.
I need a glass of wine.
All right. Well, so I think I have final statements. Then we'll just do that.
Yeah.
So I'll start it off. So for me, I feel like that snuff films should stay non-existent, and I feel like they should never really come back. And I mean mostly false snuff films. I mean, you can't control what everyone's going to do, but that's how I feel. But I think with horror in general, that it's what I already mentioned. If you're going to depict, a rape scene or something like that, you can either insinuate it, or if you're going to show it, give out some sort of warning for people who aren't expecting something like that, because you don't want them to go through this whole trauma that they've already been through, or something similar to it. And I think that's how it needs to be handled more in the future, because if it wasn't for that entire rape scene and I Spit on Your Grave, I would have liked the movie. But that scene it really ruined it for me.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with that. I think mostly especially when it comes to any kind of rape scenes and stuff like that, just some kind of thing, for a little bit of a warning for the fact, but also in my head too is kind of research the movie.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah, it's your own personal responsibility.
It's not
when
up
it
to
comes to that
everybody else
stuff.
to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I hate that whole saying where it takes one person to ruin everything for everyone. So that's also kind of where I'm at. It's kind of research a movie in a sense. If you think that's going to be in there, especially hard R horror movies. I know the remake of Evil Dead, there really wasn't that tree rape scene.
No, it was in there, but it wasn't.
It was definitely in there.
It wasn't as visceral.
It wasn't as nowhere near as visceral. But seeing as how it was a remake, you kind of knew what you were in for if you knew about the original. But if you've been through a traumatic experience and it's hard for you to go and like watch those things again, like, My Heart's Out to You and stuff like that. No one should ever go through those kind of traumatic experiences. It's also kind of to you or people, your friends and stuff like that, to kind of research to help you get through those things and keep you away from those scenarios. Mm-hmm. But I do agree that snuff films should be nowhere near be associated with actual horror films.
All right, Aaron.
I'm like a 50-50 with y'all here. I do agree that snuff films and horror films are not the same thing, and there might be some snuff elements in a horror film, or there might be some horror elements in a snuff film, but they are separate genres. But I don't think that snuff films necessarily need to go away. I mean, I guess that comes down to, like, if people want to make them, I completely disagree with it. I don't like snuff films by any means, but if they're, at the end of the day, if they're not actually snuff films where they're killing people, have at it. And if people want to watch it, have at it. Mm-hmm. Put the cheese on your cracker, that's great. And when it comes down to the warnings, I would get behind having some sort of warnings. But again, I think that's one thing society lacks right now is personal responsibility. Yeah. Like, even as a victim of sexual assault myself, I don't expect other people to make sure I'm okay. I don't expect
to accommodate you.
Yeah, like I go out there, and if there's a rape scene in a movie, I can either get up and walk out, or I can pull out my phone. That's not up to other people.
Yeah.
And if I didn't do the research,
it's your fault.
It's my fault. That's on me. It's not the movie's fault.
All right, then. Well, listeners, let us know what you think, where you stand on this issue. If you'd like to message us, we'll read out here on the podcast in our next episode.
Not the next episode.
Not the next one, but the one after.
Very soon.
But yes, I think we're at the end here. Aaron, do you want to plug anything?
As always, just go check out Code 3 Paranormal on YouTube.
And keep your eyes open for the Blue Room.
Yeah, we start filming in June, and maybe we'll get Mr. Livingston over here to give us a little chat.
And as always, if you like what we're doing and want to support us, please hop on over to our Patreon and become a monthly supporter. Do it now.
Do it right now.
Or I'm going to poop on your car.
Oh, she'll do it too.
She'll do it.
She'll do it. She won't hold back. If you want to keep up with everything that we're doing and talking about, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at officialphp, and
on Instagram, punkrockhorrorpodcast, #PHP podcast.
And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star and tell us why you guys like us. And yeah, I feel, is there something else I'm forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting something.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Be on the lookout. We're going to be doing our website again here pretty soon, so it's going to be a lot easier to manage and control, and we're going to actually have a lot more stuff on, because next week we're doing a photo shoot. We're going to look so fancy. Not really. We're going to look haggard as fuck near the end.
It's going to be such a tiring day.
If y'all need help getting bloody, let me know.
We could always use another hand.
Yes, always.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And as always, podcast over.
Podcast over.
Peace.